I've been way more excited to come home and play 7 Days to Die than I have been to play Starfield. Like I feel like 7 Days to Die has been scratching that itch that I've been wanting to play for a while now. And I will admit that I've said this before that if you add a multiplayer element to a video game, it automatically becomes a much more fun game to play. Even if the base game itself was not that good, if you inject a little multiplayer into it, it automatically makes it a little more better, if at least a little more tolerable. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up and I'm making comparisons between 7 Days to Die and Starfield is just that it's mostly because of age, right? Because 7 Days to Die is a 10-year-old game. It came out in 2013 as of this recording. Well, no, you can't change the date. What I meant is it's 10 years old as of this recording. And Starfield just came out just a few months ago. And they're both very different games, but similar in some aspects. Maybe the most similar thing would be the first person shooter. Other than that, it gets a little wild. But it's just wild to me how addicting the game loop is for 7 Days to Die. It's a game that I've played before on console, split screen at that, and I remember it looking a lot more rougher, because from what I hear, the original vision was supposed to be like a more hardcore zombie survival Minecraft. So therefore, the voxel look was, you know, it took it was an important aspect of them making this game. We have to make this game a lot like Minecraft. Everything's destructible, and it's still like that, which is fun. It's cool that you can just destroy anything. That's awesome. But it's it's a testament. Like I've noticed that. Like I'm over here playing Starfield, which I am enjoying, but I have my gripes. I think I've explained those before. Maybe I'll make a video about Starfield soon because I'm pretty deep in. That's what she said, and I feel like I will end this game as opposed to a lot of the people that I speak to. They're like, I'm just gonna wait till they finish the game, and I'm like, I can't even be mad at that mindset because it does feel pretty bland. I think all in all, Starfield's a great game. I do. I'm not crazy about some of the I don't like the PG sanitized feel of it. Like you can't really dismember people. It's not a lot of gore. Everything feels weird, and there's a lot of little political ideologies too, which I'm not gonna get into because that's an extremely sensitive issue for a lot of people. But I will say that all in all, it is a success. But the main reason why I'm comparing Starfield and 7 Days to Die is this. If this whole long 3-minute rant that I just did, and you guys are trying to piece everything together as to why I'm comparing the two, here it is. The takeaway is one is a 10-year-old game and one is a game that came out a few months ago, and I prefer the 10-year-old game. That just goes to show you that, like, if you do something right, it lasts the test of time. It's that simple. If a game is fun, if a game is monumental, if a game is epic, that will translate over as the years go by. Sure, it may be outdated. Sure, it may look rough, and it may play rough because some of the modern conveniences aren't applied because, technology keeps improving and video games aren't the exception. A case in point would be Fallout 3, right? You play Fallout 3, vanilla Fallout 3 today. No mods, no nothing. It's rough, man, but it's still there. The soul is still there. The atmosphere is still there. The fun factor is still there. I can easily, and I believe about 2 years ago, I went back and replayed the whole thing from you know totally maxed my guy out from beginning to the end and I did all the DLC as well as the vanilla version, the base game missions and storyline. I did everything. Operation Anchorage, what was the other one? Mothership Zeta. Anyways, what I'm saying is once you play Fallout 3, I heard there's going to be a remaster too. Give me a second. Let me take a sip of this coffee. I heard there's gonna be a remaster soon anyway, which I'm like, shit. I probably should have just waited for that, but I'll fuck around and go back and play that too. But whatever. Case in point is that if a game is done well, right, it will last the test of time. And I'm not saying Starfield has not been done well. It's done exceptionally well. It looks fantastic. Barely any glitches. Is it optimized? Fuck no. I have no. Well, I do know why Todd Howard said in that one interview that it's it's not Starfield's fault. It's, you need to upgrade your PC. Starfield is optimized. And it's like, no, dog, it's not. It really isn't. I've encountered so many issues and so many bugs, but they're all minor, most of the time cosmetic. Most of the time, there's somebody just bugging out near a door. They're like clipped through a door or some shit. All that, that comes with Bethesda games. Like, like if you buy a Bethesda game, or honestly any large open world game, that's going to happen, man. That's not just exclusive to Bethesda. But Bethesda, since they're the leader of pack, they get the most heat. Now, some people call them Bugthesda. I'm like, okay, that's kind of clever. Well, comparisons aside, Seven Days to Die is also a game that's fucking shrouded in a mystery too, right? Like this is a game that's been created by these developers called the Fun Pimps, which is probably a controversial name right now. I can see some green-haired, girl with a picket sign, being totally outraged about someone, some group called the Fun Pimps. Anyways, what I'm saying is everybody's sensitive nowadays. That's just a fact. Uh, Trust me, I know everything. No, I'm joking. Seven Days to Die is definitely a game that's kind of shrouded in mystery. They have these developers that you don't know anything about. Like you have to scour the internet to find out who they are. Like there's no direct link to them. Like you go on Wikipedia, there's no page for the Fun Pimps. It redirects you to Seven Days to Die, the only game that they have ever created, to my knowledge. If they did create another game, I have no idea. But to my knowledge, they've only made 7 Days to Die. Give me 1 second. Which is funny because I think of Rockstar, right? Rockstar has created all these masterpieces and they've been around for so long. And then the only game they really choose to focus on is GTA 5, right? A lot of people would probably agree with that. Some would disagree with that. But like, Red Dead Redemption doesn't get as much love. RDR2, Red Dead. I had to fucking really think if I did the initials right to that. Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't get as much love as, online doesn't get as much love as GTA 5. And it is crazy that I've got friends who they started servers where they're actually getting some sort of monetary gain from these servers playing GTA 5, and it's huge, man. It's a huge game, and it's like it's made them millions and millions of dollars. And it's pretty, you got to admit, even though I know there's lots of people who are outraged that GTA 6 has not come out yet, like you gotta like admire the fact that they can take a game that's been around forever. Like how old is GTA 5? Like that it's fucking I remember playing that shit the first time I ever played it was on PS3. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like PlayStation 3. This is before I got into PC gaming, and then I've replayed it again maybe a year or two ago with one of my friends, and we were playing GTA on PC, and I remember turning to her going like, at least I remember, not unless I'm making this scenario up, but I remember telling her like, God damn, I remember playing this shit like on PS3, and it's still highly relevant today. Which is, you know what? Inadvertently, this ties to what I was talking about earlier, right? If a game is fun, if a game has, if it's just crafted well, it will last the test of time. GTA 5 is no exception. But the reason I'm comparing the Fun Pimps to Rockstar is just like, they're riding off the success of this one game. Although Rockstar is vastly different, they actually have a bunch of other titles like Red Dead Redemption 2 that are goddamn masterpieces, and you guys should drop everything that you're doing if you haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2. And, that's a hard game to recommend to the younger folks because, I'm older. I'm an older guy. I'm not that old, but I'm pushing 40, and I feel like the younger generation, by the younger generation I mean like anyone who's like 20, 25, I feel like they need fast paced games. They need something that they'll get like instant gratification, and Red Dead Redemption 2 can give you that. Don't get me wrong, there's parts where it can give you that, but it's like a slow story where you kind of just have to sit back and you have to listen to the dialogue and you have to fight the urge to get up from your chair or to fiddle with your phone or to start tapping your leg or looking up at the ceiling. You have to just sit there and brave it. Like you have to like almost teach yourself patience. And you can say Fallout games are like that too because there's a lot of dialogue and sometimes you got this cool ass gun and some bullets. You just want to go out there and wreck shit, but you're here talking to some guy about settlements. And you're like, "Ugh," you're going, you're just holding it in, going like, I just want to go out there and shoot, and you keep fucking talking. So, anyways, the comparison to finally end the comparisons of Rockstar and the Fun Pimps is that they're both riding off the success of this one game, except that seven and the Fun Pimps, to my knowledge, the only game they produced was 7 Days to Die, but it's pretty fucking successful. Last I heard, it sold about 16 million copies, which is fucking crazy, right? For a smaller studio to make those type of numbers, and you can totally see because of those numbers why they've babied this game. This game is 10 years old. 7 Days to Die is, and it's just regular updates. The last update was like June, and it was a huge one, which changed a lot of core mechanics, some for the better, some for the worse. The jury's still out with me because I played the OG version a few years ago. Now I'm playing this version, and I like both, to be honest. I mean, the whole water thing, this one basically it's a survival game at its core, and you need water and food. That's a staple for survival games. And before, in the older versions, you would have like a glass jar. You can fill that glass jar. It's reusable. You can fill it up with water, whatever liquid, drink it, and then you will still keep the empty glass jar in your inventory. With this new update, they completely eliminated the glass jar, so when you drink it, they disappear, and so it's harder to stay alive now. I guess they did that for definitely not for more immersion, because obviously shit just doesn't disappear after you finish drinking it. But I will say that it's made the game more difficult, if not, sacrifice some immersion. But I kind of like it because it is difficult. It was a little frustrating at first. It felt very unfair, but it took a while for me to find like the water filter, and then eventually find these dew collectors that they added to the game. That as time goes on, it gives you water. And so we did a couple missions, and we got some. You go to this one trader, or several traders, and then you do missions for him, and then he gives you some form of currency, and then with that currency, you can buy some of his supplies. One of those supplies is a collector, and that dew collector can give you water. Whatever. We're doing very well right now. Me and like three other friends that usually play just about every night, and I mean, shit, I don't even know where to start with this game, right? Like, first of all, it's got a hell of a makeover, right? Because I remember when I last played, it looked a little more voxel-like, a little more pixelated, and I'm like, that's okay if that's what they're from what I hear, the original, the Fun Pimps. I can't even name you one person of the Fun Pimps because, like I said, they're so it's you have to scour the internet to find information on these folks, which is kind of like weird, right? In a time where everyone is willingly giving out their information. And here we are, and especially a company who's, pretty well known in the video game community because they have a very successful product. They have a very successful game. And you would think, like, with success comes more notoriety, and, you would know more about these people, but you really don't. Maybe I'm not looking in the right places. Um, it's a lot to go through with this game because it's like I said, I played like the older versions and they cleaned it up nicely. Now I think you can even play in 4K. I'm not even sure. I think you can play in 4K. I'm not sure. I'm playing like high 1080p because I don't have a fancy monitor and anything, nor do I really need one. But point is, coming from playing this game on console to playing this game on PC, it's night and fucking day, dude. It looks great for the most part, and a lot of new zombies have been introduced, like different zombie variants. I remember when I was playing in the console version, it was like the same 5 zombies, and I was like, ah, that sucks. But I also knew that the game was unfinished, which brings me to my next point, probably the most controversial thing about 7 Days to Die and the Fun Pimps. The fact that this game has been in early access for 10 goddamn years. I saw a comment somebody wrote online, which I thought was pretty funny. He said, I played this game in my childhood, and 10 years later, I'm a married man now, and this game is still in early access. And I remember going, damn, that really put things in perspective, right? Well, first of all, a lot can happen in 10 years. And also, if he got married within those 10 years when he first started playing 7 Days to Die, he either got married young, like really young, or I don't know, this guy's a goddamn liar. But point is, that goes to show you that, like, why is this game in early access for so long? I don't know anything about development for a guy who talks about video games online, right? You would think that I would know some sort of fucking something, but good thing is that you don't need to be an expert to talk shit. So here I am. I will say that from what I've heard, right, and it's just not from 7 Days to Die itself, but also from other games, that it's much easier to work on a game while it's in early access. I think it's less regulation or something like that, but I can't even tell you why it's easier to have a game developing a game while in early access. I don't know if that's some sort of a little loophole that they're abusing, because that's sometimes what it feels like. For a game to be in early access for this long, it's like this is definitely like a little loophole they're abusing. I don't know. And like I said, this isn't the only game that's been in early access for a long time. Ironically, another very popular zombie game, which I enjoy a lot, Project Zomboid, is also in early access, to my knowledge, and that's been in early access for God knows how long. Some people say it's in early access because the crew who works on the game isn't that large, so it takes them a long time to produce product. And I don't know, but I kind of feel like early access is like welfare, right? And for those who aren't familiar with welfare, it's like, well, I say welfare, but I'm sure there's an actual official name to it. But it's like, like if you lose your job, the government can give you like food stamps and they can help you get on your feet, but you're not like supposed to abuse the system. Here I am. I'm gonna get myself in trouble for this shit. I was a welfare baby. I grew up on welfare. I was not personally, to reveal some information to you guys. I was not rich by any means, nor was my family. We grew up hard times. So I'm familiar with the subject, but it reminds me, it feels like, how some people on welfare, they're just supposed to get this like benefit for just a while until they get on their feet, find a job, and, leave this assistance, this government assistance. I think that's actually the name right there, government assistance. But some people, lots of people, they kind of just tend to stay on government assistance, and that's a crutch. And that remains a crutch to them for many years. And I kind of feel like early access is like that sometimes. Maybe my viewpoint is fucked up on it. Once again, I reiterate, I don't know shit about video game development. Maybe it's harder to stay in early access. I don't know. And something that I read off the internet a while ago, can you really, you really gotta, you put all your stock in it. Like you really gotta, I gotta figure this shit out. But point is, that's what it feels like to me. It feels like some people just use early access as a crutch to continue, I don't know, keeping the cost down, or to kind of use it as a crutch. I said like, okay, guys, we have not been giving you regular updates because we're early access, because we're a small team. Like they're kind of like almost using that, like weaponizing it almost, or using it as a self defense type deal. I don't know. What I am trying to say is that that's wild that a game, that's something you got to admit that, like that's something that that's a large, that's the elephant in the room. A game has been in early access for 10 years. As to why, man, you got to ask somebody way smarter than me to figure that out. But whatever. I mean, overall, as long as the game keeps getting regular updates, and some for the better, some for the worse, I don't care if it's in early access. Me personally, I know other people probably will for some reason. But for me, it's like, hey, I'm okay with that. As long as you keep providing, you know, as long as you keep supporting the game in some way, shape, or form, then I'm cool with it being in early access. It's I read an article about this a couple nights ago while I was falling asleep, and the phone almost hit me in my face because it almost fell off my hand. But I remember it was some guy in a article saying that the reason why this game is massively successful is because of its variety, its sheer variety. Those were the words he used, and I was like, damn, that's he basically, like, you know how when you feel something and you can't quite put your finger on what you feel, you just feel it, but then someone comes along and articulates it, they verbalize what you feel, and you're like, oh, that's what it is. So I had one of those moments when he said that. He said sheer, what did he say? God damn it, I just said it a little while ago. Sheer variety. And I was like, that's what makes, because it's like a tower defense game. It's an RPG. It's like exploration. It feels like it can be kind of Skyrim-ish or Elder Scrolls-ish. You know, maybe I should use that description. Like you can go out there and explore shit and all that. And you've got like the dungeons, quote unquote, would be houses, right? It'll be like houses that were left after the war. Because if I remember, I hope I remember. This game has one of the dumbest stories ever. It's so dumb and obscure, and it doesn't really explain anything. I'll take outdated and I'll take played out over dumb. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'll take the story of this game. Let me tell you this real quickly. It's supposedly there was World War III happen. Most of the world was obliterated to shit, right? Except for this one sliver of land in this fictional town or fictional section of Arizona in the States, in the United States. And the reason why people are zombies is because of maybe the radioactive fallout or maybe some sort of virus that was also happening at the time, conveniently. And it's like, what? Like that's it's so vague, and it's like, how can nuclear everyone should be dead. Like, you know what I mean? And at least if they would have went with the old trope of, there was a virus and pharmaceutical companies got greedy, and everyone got, infected by this virus. Now everyone's gone mad. Some people are immune to it, some are not, and Q and fucking Will Smith. Whatever. Like, I'll rather take played out and tired than just confusing and not good. And that's what I feel like the storyline of this game is. It's just like, what? It's like the storyline was like an afterthought. From what I hear, originally there was supposed to be some sort of dynamic storyline when they were kickstarting this game, and that got removed. They didn't get to do that, and obviously 10 years later they still haven't put no type of emphasis into the story whatsoever. So luckily, there's lots of good games out there that have shit stories, but the mechanics are pretty fun. Can't think of any, but I know for a fact there's some out there. um Luckily, this game, you don't have to really worry too much about the storyline since you're mostly focused on surviving, right? That's, you know what the base of the game is. It's like, since there's no storylines or anything like that, you kind of just have to build your base up and level your character up, find better weapons, find ways to get food. So it's all about survival and exploration, which to me, that's all I need. And that's what I find the best. That's what I find the most charming and the most alluring about this game is that the exploration and the character development. Some people would say the crafting, which is very deep, right? The crafting is deep. You can put different shapes and sizes. You can make fucking gigantic fortresses. You can find little farms out in town, nowhere towns, and just fortify them. And they were originally wood. You can make them steel or stone, or it's really cool that you can do it. I like that a lot, and each little house that you break into is like a dungeon, like you'll get a little surprise at the end, a little prize at the end. And sometimes zombies will break through from the ceilings and land on you. Other times you'll break through the floor and land in these dank dark basements, and you have to fight your way out of them. That's cool. I like that because it feels like every little house is a small dungeon, and that's very alluring. I enjoy that immensely. um I guess if we're gonna start getting down to, if what's brass tacks mean, I was gonna say we're getting down to brass tacks, but I don't even know what that means, so I better just not use that. That probably means something else, probably something offensive 9 times out of 10. But if I had to sit here and really give me a second, I gotta sneeze. All right, sorry. So if I had to sit here and really start talking about the game's music, which is awesome, but I feel like, and if they have a hell of a variety when it comes to the music, it's you don't hear you hear the same music, but I guess it's so well spaced out, and they have such a variety of music. I mean, they better. It's been 10 fucking years. But it's so spaced out well that you don't hear the same tune a lot. You hear a lot of chimes. Your brain kind of recognizes the little patterns. Like, okay, it's morning time. That's the little chime they play when it's morning time. That's the little chime they play when it's nighttime. Then you've got the little cool music. You've got each trader, I think, has a different type of music. It's usually this hard rock, soft porn type music, and it's kind of cool. And yeah, like there's nothing that's shrill, or there's nothing that just jumps out at me as like, man, this is done terribly. Like it's solid stuff in the music department. Um, Graphic wise, it can range. If you put it from low, like my friend, she plays on a Steam Deck and she plays on low settings, and it looks like ass. Like the water looks like it looks like a Nintendo 64 game. Like I'm like, God damn, that's probably how I remember it. Honestly, when I played it on console, it looks pretty bad. Then when you put it on high or ultra, different world, dude. Different world. It looks fantastic. Light is shining through the trees, like the rays and stuff like that. And the floorboards are shiny when you're breaking into someone's abandoned house, which would it be considered breaking in if it's abandoned? You figure that out. But it's they put so much emphasis into graphics that I'm like, holy shit, it looks amazing. You know, like it looks really good. And on the graphics departments, it's not lacking. Gameplay, that like I told you before, that's the meat of it. That's where I would say it shines, you know, because once again, if you have a story that sucks or a non-existent story, you can say both about this game. But the gameplay loop is so addictive, like you don't care about the story. You don't give a flying fuck about the story. Plus, this game's in early access, and maybe in my lifetime, you know, they'll fully flesh it out, and it'll actually be a pretty good, cool story, you know. But come on, man, 10 years, you lose hope, man. I can tell you this now: if I was a betting man, and someone said, "Do you think 7 Days to Die will ever have a story?" I will say no. I would bet no. I don't feel like I feel like this game is just gonna be a game that is going to just linger in early access until the Fun Pimps make something else, you know, and 7 Days to Die just kind of becomes a modder's toy, you know, which is the fate to a lot of games. They just kind of just get thrown into the jaws of the modders or the hands of the modders, whatever you want to put it, and they kind of just make it into a new thing, which is really cool. I like that. I like the fact that some games that are fun can be you can breathe a second life to them. I don't like. I would say I'm trying to think of something that stands out of this game that I can honestly say I don't enjoy. Um, it's hard. It's hard to think of everything because it's like I would say probably if I had to nitpick, probably the wolves or the creatures, the dogs or the wolves or the canines or whatever they are. Like 9 times out of 10, I never hear them. Sometimes I do. I'll hear like a distant growl, and I'm like, oh shit, that's a wolf or that's a dog. But lots of times, most of the times, they it feels like they just appear next to you and start chomping your ass, and you're like, how the fuck you get here? I didn't hear you or nothing. Not only does it scare the shit out of you, but also they're like, you know, they're tough to kill and they're very fast and their attacks are relentless. They'll keep attacking, attacking, attacking until you bleed out and die. Um, Speaking of death, here is another thing I don't like. I I know I'm in the minority here, but just hear me out. Hear me out. All right. I want to get punished a little more when I die. I know. That sounds fucking crazy, and I agree with you. It is crazy, but as of today, right? If you die, and when I say today, November 2023, right? If you die in 7 Days to Die, you basically get penalized in the form of a cap over your experience bar. This red cap needs to be quote unquote worked off in order for your regular XP bar to show up again, and then you can start leveling up. Long story short is you cannot level up until you get rid of this red cap over your level up bar, right? At first, I was like, that's kind of cool because you won't use death as like a crutch. You go, hey, I'm starving to death, or I have an infection. There's no food around. There's no meds around. I'm just kill me, bro. Kill me, and then I'll come back from the afterlife a new man, with no diseases and no hunger, and then I'll come back with a little level cap. At first, I was like, okay, that's fine. Like up to level 6, you get this level cap protection. After level 6, you're on your own. You start to get the level cap, and you got to be careful about the things you do. That way, you won't die and get this level cap. But I don't feel like it's severe enough. I feel like there's something else needs to happen because at this point I'm playing with 3 other people, and whenever they do something, whether they mine, whether they kill someone, whether they find things, you get experience points for all these things, and we all share the experience points. So it's possible for somebody in our group who, let's say, this is just an example purposes, not in my group. My group, everybody does something. But if I had someone in my group who doesn't really do anything, they don't do any combat, they just run around, they just want to play the game, have a little fun, run around picking up plants and farming, and they're not really doing anything, they can still level up pretty high just based off the work that we're doing because the experience is shared. So, if that person dies and they have that red cap over their experience bar, we, meaning the rest of the group, can just go out there and just do what they do. And this person can effectively work off the cap, the red cap, by doing nothing just because we're giving her our shared experience. So that to me is like, I feel like there has to be a little. You can drop all your stuff on death, and that originally used to be a punishment. Because when I first played 7 Days to Die, there was no option to spawn near your backpack. It was just spawn where your bedroll is. If your bedroll was like 3 biomes away, then tough fucking luck. You would have to spawn there and then run all the way back to your bag and hope you don't die again, right? That was grueling. So I guess they didn't remove that. That's still an option, but there's also an option that says spawn near your backpack. So you can spawn near your backpack as soon as you die with this red cap over your experience bar, run and get your shit, right? And then run back and now you're like, okay, my stuff is a little hurt, like my armor is a little more degraded and I have this red cap, but all in all, I'm going to be all right. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the I need a little more punishment. I know, crazy, but I do. Like I want to really make sure that like my deaths are like, oh, I want them to all be learning lessons. But I know I'm a psycho for thinking that. All in all, great game. Once again, I told you I'm enjoying it more than a more fleshed out AAA title from my favorite developers. Nothing against Starfield. Once again, like I said, at the end of the day, Starfield's a great game. But the reason I'm always comparing this to is just because I'm like, wow, it's a shame that I'm enjoying a game that's 10 years older than this current game. And here's another thing I want to add. I'm not the only one that feels like this. Like, like I said just yesterday, I was out with my friend and another friend and his girlfriend, and I asked him, he loves cyberpunk. We were talking about cyberpunk for a bit, and I love cyberpunk too. I haven't played Phantom Liberty yet, but that's 100% next on the list. And I remember telling him, "You played Starfield," and he said, "Nah, I'm gonna wait till this game gets finished, and then I'll play." And then he like laughed, and I was like, "Yeah, I understand where you're coming from." Like I'm not the only one that shares this sentiment because like as you're playing Starfield, there's a lot of procedurally generated stuff, and you kind of feel like, man, this game's kind of bland. It's awesome, but it's kind of bland. But I have faith in it. I really do think I've seen. I don't know if it was Game Informer or a GameSpot. I don't know, one of these pretty big video game reviewer publisher companies or whatever. I heard one of them say, "Oh, it's lots of people. There's more people playing Skyrim today than there are Starfield than players. Basically, the player count of Skyrim is higher than the player count of Starfield today." And I was just thinking, like, and one of the things they said, you think that Bethesda is gonna stop support of Starfield? And I'm like, of course these pages are intended to be incendiary, right? They want to evoke some sort of emotion from you in order for you to give up and write something and interact because that's how they make their money. They want people to they gotta goad you into interacting with their shit in order for they can get paid, just like the news here in America. But that's a whole different subject. We're not even gonna get into that. Play it. I bought it for a friend on sale for $5. Scratch that, under $5. It was like $4.92, $4.89. Under $5, I got one of like the best zombie games I've ever played in my life, which is 7 Days to Die. So that shows you a lot. At this point, the verdict is still out with between Zombie Project Zomboid versus 7 Days to Die. I like these games equally. As of today, 7 Days to Die seems to trump it just by a bit. But I don't want to speak too soon because I played Project Zomboid for way longer, and I'm gonna see once I'm finally done playing 7 Days to Die with my friends, and I can make a larger verdict on that. But still, you can find this game for dirt cheap online. Uh, 100% worth it. If you have some friends, please play it with some friends. You can play solo and it's fun, but try to get at least another friend or two involved in this, man. It's very, very, very much worth it. Thank you for listening. Sorry if I was all over the place. I'm sure there was probably a point I was supposed to come back to and tie it together. And sorry. See you guys.